Hello there, my name is Jeremy, and today I'll be presenting my topic on multi-tier architecture. Now, to start, what is a multi-tier architecture? Well, a multi-tier architecture is a client-server architecture whereby its processes had been separated into different tiers or layer. A multi-tier is also known as the n-tier architecture, whereby n equals to 1 or more tiers. It is quite debatable in that matter, where some people have said that a single tier, a two-tier, and a three-tier architecture is completely different from a multi-tier architecture, whereby a multi-tier would consist of more than three tiers. Another debatable statement is that a tier will refer to the physical deployment of the system, whereas a layer refers to the logical component of the system. Again, this is debatable, as some have said that a tier would not necessarily have to run on separate computers, whereby it can run on the same system as well. Tiers are independent from each other and do not intermingle processes. What this means is that each processes done in a tier are only done by the tier, and other tiers around outside of it will not care what is being processed by that tier. Now, the typical multi-tier architecture would be the three-tier architecture, which consists of the three different layers or tiers, such as the presentation layer, the application layer, and the data layer. The presentation layer, as the name implies, controls how the system will interact with the user, such as through the layout, the theme layer, user interface, and such. The application layer, on the other hand, is in charge of logic processing. It controls the processes of how each layer the process of each layer. The data layer, on the other hand, is where the databases and network protocols are stored. It is also where data will be stored and retrieved. Now, let's talk about the advantages of a multi-tier system. For one, it is flexible. Since the components are separated from each other, modifications can be made easily without affecting the other components in that system, or tiers, if you will. Also, a multi-tier system is more maintainable. Since tiers have no relation to one another, even if a fault occurs, the fault will be isolated only in that tier and will not actually affect the other tiers. It is also reusable, as components in a tier can be used by different components of another tier for like maybe simultaneous run and stuff. Scalability, on the other hand, states that new components can be added for better performance, or maybe like adding new features and stuff, maybe. Now, the disadvantages of a multi-tier system, whereby, as stated before, that a multi-tier architecture would normally consist of three tiers. But if you insist on adding more than three tiers, of course the maintenance cost will increase as well. Also, another note, the more tier that is added to the system, it will also affect the performance of communication. As the tier are all separate by itself, they will have to communicate across different process, machine, or enterprise boundaries, and this will result in communication overhead. Now, some example of multi-tier will include Drupal. Drupal is a web content management system used for creating websites. Drupal isn't per se a multi-tier system, but looking in the basic sense, it actually comprises of somewhat of a multi-tier architecture. But in the real sense, it's a mix between a hierarchical MVC. Yes. And this is how the layout of a Drupal will look like. As you can see, the layout is separated into different blocks, where in each blocks contains the MVC. The MVC itself also can be contained as maybe like a multi-tier in itself, in a sense. Another example of a multi-tier would be in banking systems. Since banks require more reliability, a multi-tier would be quite applicable, as maybe like different layers can be edited without actually affecting the whole system as itself. So I can say it's actually quite a dependable system in a sense. Also, layers can be configured and will not affect the other layers as well. Also, new features can be added to that layer, and also it will not affect the other layers. So as a verdict, I find the whole architecture to be rather complete. It's easy to modify, components are interchangeable, and adding new components with the and you also can add new components without breaking the entire system. So even if one system breaks, at least the other added components or tiers will not be affected. So you can be safe of that. Yeah. And here are my references that I used to actually write this slide. Thank you for listening. Forgive my mistakes that I made. Thank you.